Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server and we're having a look at a new vehicle that is coming in for China. This is the SA5. It was actually one of the first vehicles that was shown by Gaijin, or at least teased by Gaijin, when it comes to this major update. On the dev server, it's not finished, okay? So I might actually review this again in the future, or at least show you what the missiles are supposed to be, because this thing does not get its proper missiles yet, and I don't know if other parts of it are also functioning or not. One of the things is the missiles are labeled as the FB-10As, but they have exactly the same stats as the HN6s that you can see here. Now, the FB-10s are supposed to be a lot better than the HN6s, which is why I'm a little bit afraid to kind of show this thing. We had the big issue previously, which was, I think, with the VT5, where literally it took a few updates to the dev server to actually get it fully fixed, and I had to deal with just a bunch of people going crazy constantly telling me that I was showing the vehicle wrong and how there was like a bunch of, misinformation about it when literally I was just showing what the vehicle had. So just take into account that. So if you have a look at the gun as well, one of the funny things about this 30mm gun is that it like bobs in and out, which is an interesting state of affairs. I don't think it's designed to do that. If something actually did recoil like that, it would cause a lot of stress on the system, but I think it generally just looks very fun. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that one. So let's talk about all the other factors from this vehicle. Number one, it's a top tier SPAA for the Chinese. It's going to be at 12.0, going to be at rank 8 after the two Tor systems, the Tor M1 and the HQ17. The vehicle itself is highly mobile. It has a nearly 500 horsepower engine for this 26-ton behemoth, and also has a very good forward speed, but not great backward speed. It's also massive. So if you have a look at the vehicle, 15mm of armor, and also 20mm of armor on the front. The turret is 25. This is not stopping any rounds, and it is just huge. So it's another one of these vehicles where you're going to get your head caved in when it comes to facing other ground vehicles, unless you can get the 30mm bump in and take them out. But it only has 500 rounds for this 30mm, and the RPM on it is just nuts, so you're going to get through it really, really quickly. It does have a two-plane stabilizer, though, so you can run around like a crazy person and use the gun to just annihilate stuff, which is quite fun. The turret itself doesn't actually have anybody in it, so I don't know how the ammo works, apart from it's just this big cylinder at the bottom. So if you actually shoot the turret, unless you ignite and set off one of the missiles on the side, I don't actually think you're going to be able to kill the thing. Because you have the vertical aiming drive here, you have the electronic equipment in the back and the gun, but you don't actually have the ammo. So it might be one of those really annoying vehicles where people kind of like sit it behind a hill and then just try and spray you with the 30mm and then use like the ammo box to reload it, and then you just can't kill it because you just can't pop its turret. But if you run like HE, or if you run anything that isn't APF STS, you'll be able to pop it no problem, because you'll overpressure it and nuke it. It does have a radar. It's the PGZ-625TA radar. Has quite a nice search zone, has IFF and look down, and also a 40-kilometer range, which I think is quite good. It also has a tracking radar, and this one's kind of fun because it has the DL targets 8. So technically, you could actually lock on to 8 separate targets and be able to fire all missiles separately at those things. You're not going to be able to, but I mean, it'll look cool if you're able to do it in a custom battle or something. It also has a gunner optic, which is pretty standard for this type of vehicle, and a 4-man crew where you have 2 in the bottom, 1 driver here, 1 loader here, and then also you have the gunner and the commander back here on the FCS system too, with a fully updated horizontal aiming drive and also a fuel tank in the bottom, which I generally think is quite nice. So talking about this 30mm, it has access to a default belt, a HE, and also an APT. The APT pens 65mm, so against like other light vehicles, once you run into them as they're running around, With this stabilized 30mm, you'll just be able to brap and just annihilate them, and there's nothing they can do about it, which is pretty nuts. And then also you have the HE, which will be very good against planes too. The RPM on, well, the basically the fire rate on the 30mm is insanely good, so you're going to be able to just get through it too. You also have some smokes. You have 8 of them, which you're able to kind of like set off on the front, so that'll cover you from incoming missiles and also other stuff that is going to turn up. It doesn't have access to an LWS, doesn't have access to a laser rangefinder, but once again, this thing isn't finished. It also doesn't have thermals, which would be incredibly surprising on a vehicle like this, and doesn't have other kind of auxiliary factors either. So just take all of this with a pinch of salt. There's no way this vehicle is finished because of what it has in the game right now. But from a mobility point of view, from a targeting speed point of view, this thing is incredibly quick to be able to get, you know, shots on target and also just hammer a lot of targets around. It does also have quite a lot of really nice kind of skins on it, which is really cool. You have, of course, the tricolor one and also all of the others that you can turn on. The major thing I would say about this vehicle is in its current state, it's just very odd to see it from this point of view, where it is actually a 12-0 vehicle, which is why I think it can't be finished in the way that it is. You can see that the mobility on it is actually quite good, you know, getting up to 20 kilometers an hour on a turn, and then also the fire rate on the gun. Like, it can braze stuff pretty aggressively once you get near it, very similar to stuff like the LAV-AD and things like that. And then also, if you're dealing with like planes or helicopters that are near, you can just absolutely torch them, right? So anything that comes within your small vicinity, such as, you know, a few kilometers away from you at most, you'll be able to annihilate. But as we know, when it comes to 12-0 and top tier, you don't fight that. You fight vehicles which are miles away. You know, you don't fight stuff which is this far away. Your main threats as an SPAA that you have to deal with are stuff which is, you know, over that size. So as kind of like a gun, yeah, the gun's great, but how useful is it going to be in terms of this, right? How useful is this going to be at dealing with the enemies that you need it to deal with? And I would probably say not very much. Like, it's going to be more one of those types of vehicles that, just like the XM246, which is, you know, or was added last update, people are just going to use it as more as kind of like an anti-tank vehicle instead of what it should be used as, which is an anti-air one. Until we see what these missiles are like, which should be a lot better than the ones that are on show here, we can't really work out how this vehicle is going to be. But from a ground point of view, it should be fine against light vehicles. It should be good with the fact that it gets the ammo crate, because it does run through ammo incredibly quickly as a vehicle. Like, you can see the fire rate is just basically nuts on it. And from a radar point of view, it's generally very good. I think it works exceptionally well for what it is. And I just hope that these missiles are as equivalent to how good this radar is, because then we can actually start talking about this thing being a useful 12-0. So until we see that, it's hard to make a judgment. And I would say at this moment in time, if it stays like this, it should be a lot lower BR, but I don't think it will. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time.
I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Warthunder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.